All right, hello and welcome everybody to another one of these fantastic live streams. And this time, I actually can't believe the amount of people and quality people we've managed to get on the show. We're joined by Karen Martin. She's the founder president of TKMJ Inc. We've got Linda Rising, a well-known author, amazing consultant in the agile space, and Rich Sheridan, author of Joy Inc. and actually CEO of Menlo Innovations. This is literally going to be one of the most fun, interesting, and informative sessions I think we've ever done. So, first of all, here we go. Welcome, everybody. How are we doing?
Oh,
hey.
So the inspiration from this actually came from an email from Rich, who was saying, you know, what have been some of the interesting observations you've had during the pandemic? And I was like, oh, you know, it just got me thinking. And then we were like, well, why don't we get a few people together to sort of just answer a couple of these questions and share back with the community? And here we are with this amazing group that are going to share a few bit of insights today and have a great discussion. So to kick us off, Linda's going to share her insight first on what has been one of your biggest observations of the effect of the pandemic on work, especially over the last 18 months.
Well, first of all, let me start with an appreciation. I'm so honored to be included with this amazing group of people. So my observation has to do with change, and that I consider myself a student of change and also a scientist who looks at change in individuals, change in organizations. And of course, we have seen overwhelming change in the last 18 months. And for most organizations, when I talk to high-level executives, I'm surprised because those high-level executives are saying to themselves, this wasn't so hard. We had a high-level edict and everybody did it. So why can't we just do that? And now what we're seeing is an attempt on the part of some organizations to return to normal. And there's the sense that we can just do that in reverse. We can just have a high-level edict that says to all of the workers, all right, let's do back to the office 2 days a week, back to the office 3 days a week. We should just be able to put that in reverse and make it happen.
I love it. It's the magic snap my fingers and it's going to happen type mentality. What about you, Karen? What have been some of the insights from your own perspective in your work?
You know, I just am always amazed at how unique everybody is and how I think there's a tendency to think that we all think the same way, we all behave a certain way, and that's so not true. And what I saw happening with my own clients is that you'd have a manager absolutely loving being at home and not wanting to go back to the office at all, ever, for any reason. And then another manager who absolutely hated being at home and wanted so much that she needed the social contacts and the connections in an office. And actually, frankly, I think deep down didn't want to be at home. So I think there's just this big spectrum, and we have to just always remember that people are not all the same. And we all have different needs. And as we recover from this, we have to account for all of that.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic points. And obviously, Rich, you are a leader of a company, right, that had people would come from all over the world to visit your office. I was fortunate enough to have a little bit of a virtual tour when you started to create those. So what have been some of your observations as someone leading one of these types of companies?
Well, I always thought it was important, the work we did to create this intentionally joyful culture. And obviously it was a bit of an observational marvel for people to come and visit. I had no idea how important that work was. It was as if we had prepared 18 and a half years for this moment. And thank God we did, because I was the least prepared, quite frankly. They all led me for the first 3 months of this, because this old brain, Linda, just didn't change as fast as their brains did. And it took me a good 3 months to get my arms around it, and probably another 3 months to just get excited about what's coming forward. And to both Linda and Karen's points, the thing I've seen is the organizations that are making big mistakes right now are the ones who think the edicts can work. And the edicts could be, you're all coming back in by a date certain, or we're giving up our office and nobody's ever coming back. And if there's a center point for the Great Resignation, that's it.
Yeah, it's fascinating actually to see, like, and people talk about like directives and this is what's happening, or you're on board or you're not on board, and it's very interesting to hear about how many people probably have learned things that even remote work is not where you work. For some people, it's been when you work. Some people like to work in the morning. Some people like to do it in the afternoon. Being able to shape their whole life around this sort of change. So it's fascinating, I think, as people are going from one adjustment to another, what are they going to hold on to? What are they going to let go of? Is there any other things that really sort of strike you from your own personal experiences where you just sort of thought to yourself, God, I never thought I would have been doing this. And now I can't think about doing it any other way.
Well, I know for me, it's not traveling.
Right. Yeah.
And all of a sudden I can be like, I was in Lithuania this morning and I'm going to be in India tomorrow. And yesterday I was in Phoenix, and I thought I don't have to pack a bag or go to an airport. And it's too much for me. Talking about old brains, Rich. Wait. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I had a day where I was in South Africa in the morning, London at noon, and Brazil at the end of the day. And I was saying goodbye to the people in London. I said, hey, guys, I got to run. I got to go to Brazil. They're all like, have a safe flight. And I said, I'm not going anywhere. I got to be there in 10 minutes.
But here's another thing about individualism. I really have, it's been a big loss for me to not be in the air and to not be in airports. Whereas a lot of colleagues are like, oh, I'm so glad we're not traveling. And I'm going to be in Lithuania tomorrow morning.
You'll enjoy it. It's a beautiful city.
I've been there for a year.
Love it. So as these experiences obviously shaped us profoundly. They probably shocked us as well. So as you sort of look ahead, what do you think the future might unfold from these experiences, and how are people going to sort of learn forward or take those steps? So Karen, what do you think, are you seeing some of the patterns that are starting to emerge that you think are different from the experiences we've learned?
So I might be the oddball, but I love the Great Resignation. I think it is fantastic that we're having the Great Resignation. And I think that people are making mistakes in understanding the root cause for some of these resignations. So that's a whole nother thing. But I think the Great Resignation is going to either shake up companies or it's not. And for those that it doesn't shake up, I think they're in a world of hurt, and they're going to have a hard time adapting to, we now had, 18 months, almost 2 years of total freedom in our homes to do what we want, when we want, how we want to do it. And, of course, there has to be some coming together in order for an organization to move ahead and go in the same path. And there needs to be clear, purpose and vision and all that stuff. But when it comes to getting work done, there doesn't have to be only one way. And I think that, to Rich's point, the companies that are saying, we're getting rid of our offices 100%, and the companies are saying, you must come back and do, I just don't think this is going to work. I think that we're too individualistic.
Interesting. Yeah. Rich, what about yourself? What are some of your thoughts?
So a few weeks ago, I started saying we are in a workers in charge moment. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true. What I believe is really being said there is the companies that are going to win are the ones that are choosing to emerge stronger, and that is a leadership choice. And one of the ways we're going to do that as leaders is to value our people. A lot of people think this is about just, I'm going to go get more money somewhere else. I'm going to go, to some other location, or I can work from home. I think the companies that are going to win the talent war that we're in now, it's bigger now than it's ever been, are the ones that are going to understand communicating how much we value our people, tangibly value them is going to be where we win. Yeah,
fascinating. I think it's one of those things as well, like it's very easy to say, but like how people back that up. Like, are you going to give people flexibility, choice, what days they come in the office, when they don't, where they work from? I think it'll be a real differentiator, right? Folks will really look for that. But Linda, what are your thoughts? What are some of the things that you think, as we're going forward, these experiences really shape the way work might change?
Well, if we try to be optimistic, which I think is a good thing, then as a scientist, I can say people are now, because the economy has been hit hard, by the number of people who are either refusing or losing or choosing to go different ways with their jobs. We've got real science. There are economists at MIT and Chicago School of Business who are looking at issues that were really not seriously studied before.
Yeah.
So people are looking at what's the impact of childcare at home or being able to balance work and life, and whether people are happy or not. What's their commute like? It's not just about salaries and benefits, but it's about looking at the whole picture, which was always considered, well, too squishy of a topic for academic study. And I think what we're going to see are some real quantifiable benefits that maybe even the most hardened CEOs are going to have to pay attention to. So I agree with Karen. This is a plus.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. I think, one of the special things even about, this mode and what it offered was you got to see the whole person rather than just who shows up from 9 to 5, right? I'm sure most people have either met people's family, their kids, see deliveries from some place being dropped off and you got to jump in the door and answer it. Like, I think the human side of folks has really in many ways shone through, and places where that's been accepted and welcomed and invited in, I think it'd be massive differentiator for, I imagine when I was on video calls 2 years ago, I felt like I had to be properly organized, presented, and, now I'm showing up as me, and I think that's a real special moment or feeling of a place is that you can just be yourself, right? You see the whole person. You don't have to create facades. And if you are, I think that shows a gap. I think it makes people feel like this isn't the right place for me because I'm not being myself.
I had something happen early on in the pandemic where I started noticing a pattern when I would hear dogs barking in the background, cats jumping on desks, kids coming into the camera, and I was trying to just get work done. I had a visceral reaction to it. And all of a sudden I was like, chill out, lady, enjoy this. And now, and I hear a kid, I'm like, put the kid on your lap. I want to see the kid, and like, oh, what's your dog's name? And it's genuine. Like, I'm really interested in this now. But it was just so jarring at first to hear Rich knows about barking dogs because they have them and screaming babies. But it was new to me, and it was an adjustment, but I love it.
Let me say too, there was a panel I was on early on the pandemic, 3 CEOs, and one of them in Germany, his 4-year-old son walked right onto camera, climbed up on dad's lap. He just put his arms around him, and we all didn't even bat an eye. It was like, that was the most natural thing to happen. Nobody even thought twice about it. And I thought, what a wonderful place for us to get as humanity to just say, of course you have kids. Of course they want to be on your lap when you're talking to a computer. Why wouldn't they be? And why would any of us be offended by that? And it was just such a cool moment.
Yeah. I like seeing the instruments on the wall and the hobbies displayed around and what books are you reading. So it's like we're all in everybody's home. I'm in your home. You're in my home. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous. I think, again, it's for me too. It's been one of the highlights of, and obviously there have been some drawbacks, but let me ask you these questions. And I love to ask this one when we have people on of, you used to think blank, but now you think blank. And I love asking this question because I think it's such a great reflection of the mindset shift that some of us have gone through. So Rich, why don't you kick us off with this one? So I used to think blank, but now I think.
Well, I used to think collaboration could only truly occur if we were all in a room together. And that is absolutely not true. I've watched it work for the last 18 months. I can't unsee what I've seen. I think there's still technological frontiers to make it even better than it has been. But it works. And let me tell you right now, there is the weirdest experiment in our history going on. I'm just watching this team where what I call now emerging Menlo, which is the next version, which I am absolutely declaring I have no idea where this is going to go. I'm just fascinated to watch it. And watching almost the ballet that's going on between people who are in the office, 4 people who are collaborating, but 3 of them are here and one of them's at home, and just how almost effortlessly they're making it, unlike what used to be the case, where I think the people at home were often treated as second-class citizens and they weren't included. They weren't thought to be included. They were just a bolt on into something. And now they're looking for ways to make this equal footing around everybody, so there isn't some weird unnatural advantage to being in one place or the other.
No, brilliant. All right, and there's lots of questions starting to come in as well. We'll get to those in a moment. But Linda, let's hear your thought. What did you used to think and now you think?
Well, as you know, I'm incredibly old, and I
don't believe you.
Oh yeah, no. Next year I'm going to be 80.
Oh my word!
That's the new 60.
Right. So I live in a retirement community with my husband. We moved here when he retired 10 years ago. And when the pandemic hit, I thought, these people are old. I know, I'm old. We are all old. And I thought, this is it. We are all just going to fold up. We can't get together. And I direct an orchestra out here. So we had to stop rehearsals and all of the clubs and activities. And I thought everybody's just going to lock their doors and die. It's going to be so depressing. And what I have been surprised about is the resilience, the creativity, the innovativeness of people who are in their 60s, 70s, yes, 80s, or even 90s of finding a way. I mean, we still have parties on my street, but we do it in the driveway. We all get dressed up on our woolies this winter, because we do have winter here, and we all bring a drink. We don't share any food, but we gather on the driveway, and we still all get together. We broke our orchestra up into small groups of 8, and we bought a kerosene heater, and we rehearse in our garage. So we sit in a circle, 8 of us. So 8 in one section, 8 in the next section the next day. And then we give performances outside. Here are these old people playing instruments outside in the winter or outside in the summer when it's 95 degrees and the humidity is unbelievable. They are amazing. And they are a reflection, not just of people who are old, but of all the people around the world who have found ways, who are doing things, who are somehow expressing their resilience in ways that totally, just overwhelmingly have surprised me.
It's inspiring stuff to hear that, Linda. No, thank you for sharing that. Karen, what about yourself?
I think I've swung a couple different ways on this notion of innovation and virtual meetings versus in person. In the beginning, I definitely thought that there was certain work that we do with organizational transformation that could not be done virtually. And then I found out that was wrong, very wrong, that it could be done virtually. And then I found myself swinging the other direction, saying everything can be done virtually. And now I'm in this middle ground where I now see, especially as someone facilitating teams, and especially with leadership teams, I do miss a lot on camera that I don't miss in person. There's something about your radar being able to scan a room and feel the energy where you get reads that you don't get on Zoom or Teams or Google Meet or live, what's this called? StreamYard. And so, so there just are things that you do miss. So it's not a panacea, but it's not horrible either. It's been a really good, important tool, I think. But I also think we can't overdo it. And we have to remember that people at the end of the day still like eyeballs. And they like to, be able to emote and feel energy.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And so I want to just take some of these questions that we've had from folks, because I think it's one area we probably haven't spoken about. So both Bill McKim and Elaine Pallas have sort of brought up this notion of burnout at some level, of this sort of transactional level of one meeting to a next, one video call to a next. And so I'd love to hear, maybe Linda, you might kick off on this one. Just what have been some of your observations from just burnouts on folks, or ways maybe you've tried to manage that? Like you've talked a lot, we were joking a moment about being in Lithuania and then Amsterdam and then South America. Like it sounds fun, right? But that's context switching, which we know has a cost. So I'm just curious for maybe some reactions on that one.
Yeah, so I'm a believer in exercise. And for me, that meant going to the gym because I had my favorite machines and my weights. And I thought this is the best way to exercise is go to the gym and do my workout every day. My husband and I are both believers in exercise. So when the pandemic hit, that was out of the question. We couldn't go do that. So I thought, what will we do? How will we exercise? What a ridiculous question, because we live in a community with walking trails and trees and flowers, and we got wild turkeys and deer, animals, all kinds of. So we started walking. We walk about 5 miles every day, and I can sense a lot of benefits, including the burnout that you get from staring at a screen, that I know when we're going to go. And we will go even if it's raining, even if there's snow or ice on the ground, it's 40 below. I know we are going to get outside and we are going to go for a walk. And in fact, I now have a presentation that I developed over the pandemic on the benefits for humans of being around plants and trees. There's a wonderful new book by Susan Simard called Finding the Mother Tree. And I think it fits so much with agile development. So you got to find a time when you get outside and go for a walk. It doesn't have to be 5 miles. It could be 15 minutes. The benefits show up even after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but you got to go outside. I mean, physically outside, you're going to find some way. And if you can go with your family, whoever that happens to be at the moment, even better. I find that my husband and I have better conversations when we're out walking on the trails with the trees and the foxes and the deer and whatever. So we're hardwired to be around green trees, animals, and staring at a screen all day. That's not healthy. So you got to plan that. Make sure that happens every day. Get out there and talk to the trees.
Love it. And I think this idea of instituting habits is really important, right? Just like to manage your work. So Karen and then Rich, I'd love to hear, is there any things you've instituted in yourself to manage burnout or like set boundaries for yourself? What would be maybe one thing you've tried?
So one thing I have always been a fan of is having 50-minute meetings or 25-minute meetings or whatever it is, so that you have time to decompress and get your brain back around the next thing. And it's been even more pronounced with excessive screen time. And so I'm not always successful, making sure that there's 10 minutes or so between every meeting, and longer if possible. That's one thing. The second thing is my office is on the 3rd floor of my home. I'm in a townhome that's skinny, and I go up and down my stairs multiple times a day just to go up and down my stairs. So Linda, I'm with you. Now I'm not putting trees inside. So I'm gonna have to put some trees in, but physically moving and getting out of your seat and getting your eyes focused on far away instead of close up or mid distance is critical. So
great. Rich, what about you then?
When I'm home, I'm right there with Karen. I have my office downstairs in the basement, and I have the home computer up on the top floor of the house, 2 floors up. And for whatever reason, even though I could do it from both places, middle of the day, I'll just say, you know what, I'm going to go check my personal email. So I just walk up 2 flights of stairs, go there. And it just feels good to like get out, stretch your legs, like Linda's saying. And then I've got a lovely backyard, wonderful little garden back there. And when the weather is warm, I will do as much work as I can being out on my patio. And I've had so many people I've interacted with in a meeting and they're seeing like this lovely water feature in garden media. I'm like, is that your Zoom background or is that real back there? And I'm like, oh no, it's real. And the sun beating down, and I love my hummingbird feeder, and I'm watching. I'm sure people are like, what's he looking at right now? And I'm like, I'm looking at the hummingbird, man. They're just such cool animals. And, and I'll go clip the roses. I think these little micro breaks are really, really valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll just walk around my house and do something, go look for the frogs in the pond or something like that. And it takes 2 minutes and then I'm back at work, and it just feels so good to break those pieces up like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, look, we're getting loads of questions coming in, and we're also getting close on time. So I'm sure the folks here will go online and reply to these comments and so forth. One of the things all of us love in this world is feedback, and no more than these folks here. So, if you have a chance to sort of like enjoy the show today, or you've got insight from what we're doing, please go online, share some comments with us in the stream, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on LinkedIn or Twitter. We're gonna have closing remarks then from everyone, just to sort of share again, what's been maybe a takeaway they've had from the discussion today, and some of the advice they might want to share with people going forward, right? So to wind us off, we're going to have Linda, then Karen, and Rich, and then so Linda, what any closing thoughts or lament from you from today?
I joined an organization in 2016 because I was disturbed by the political divide in the U.S. And the organization is called Braver Angels. And what it does is bring people together from opposite sides of the political spectrum to talk to one another, something that I feel is sorely needed. And I wasn't sure how that would work out when the pandemic hit, because we have workshops and we get together, and that's part of the power of it, is actually having a conversation with somebody who doesn't see the world in the same way that you do. But it works just as well. Although, as Karen said, I think there is something in us that is happier or more productive when we actually can be in the same room. But even on Zoom, those meetings have been very productive, and it gives me hope, this chance to have a conversation with somebody who doesn't see the world in the same way. And I wish that's one lesson we could carry forward from the pandemic, is how important it is for us to get together. Not just the people in our family, not just the people who see the same way we do, not just the people who vote for the same candidates, but those people who don't disagree, those people who see the world differently. Those people who are not agile, those people who are worried about different things, maybe those people who wouldn't get vaccinated. We need to talk to them. We need to have a serious conversation. That would be the best thing to do, is try to understand, why is it that you feel this way? That'd be the best way to understand the Great Resignation, is to talk to those people. What's the problem? What are you thinking about? Instead of all the theorizing and the people who are talking about it like we are, it would be better to ask them. Let's talk to them.
Yeah, well, I love it. And we're getting so many great comments here as well from Kirsty and Joe. Mohammed will definitely reply to these again as the show finishes. But Karen, any thought from yourself, and then Rich?
When I wrote The Outstanding Organization, I was talking about employee engagement and riffing on Rich's joy theme, having joy at work. And it's really important. And I came up with these 3 common elements that I think all human beings need at work. And it's connection, creativity, and control. And control is the one that kind of shocks people when I talk about it. But I do think that in this pandemic, there's been such a feeling of the net's been taken out from underneath us and we're out of control. We don't know. But you can get micro control. Like, for example, the thing about, screen time over and over and over, you have control over your schedule. You can decide you're going to have a 5-minute break between meetings or a 10-minute break between meetings. And people normally will honor that if you explain why. And so I think it's looking for the little micro control. It's a human need, micro control areas that are healthy and good for everybody.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, really good. Rich?
I'll use an anecdote from our team. There's a gentleman on our team has a young son who has chronic health issues. and he lives about 40 minutes from the office. And in the early years, he was at Menlo pre-pandemic. If one of the two parents had to stay home with the child, they had to take a day off of work, and we were a little more flexible on that. So he tended to take more days off of work than his wife did, who had a very inflexible employer on that schedule. And now it's like, if he needs to stay home, it's not like he has to tend to his child. It's just he got to be at home in the house with them and that sort of thing. So he now has much greater control over his own life in terms of where he needs to be most in order to have the most effective day for not only for Menlo, but for himself. And so I think there is this wonderfully emerging humaneness to our organizations if we're listening, paying attention to what we're hearing, and adjusting based on what we hear, and not trying to go back to the old way of doing things.
No, I love it. And a huge thank you then to all of you, Linda, Karen, and Rich, for joining us today. You know, I can see in the comments, people have got so much out of it. They've had a great blast. Again, folks, you know, if you've enjoyed this, share it with your network. We'll jump online and reply to some more of your comments, keep the conversation going. And until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves and enjoy, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.